Another piece of blending equipment that we use in the kitchen is called an immersion blender. And we use the immersion blender when we're actually trying to blend large amounts of liquid, more than a half gallon, sometimes even up to 5 gallons, 6 gallons. We're able to puree whatever we're making into a nice soup or a nice sauce. Basically, there are many different types of immersion blenders, and this one is a rather large one. They also come in hand size, and believe it or not, they also come in larger than this one we have here. For cleaning purposes, it actually breaks down into two parts. The motor, which drives the blade at the end of the shaft on this piece, we never want to get water on the motor. So we don't run it through the dish machine, we don't put it in the pot sink. It's very important that you realize that this is a piece of electric equipment and it should never be in direct contact with any water, of course. Okay? Basically, to put the immersion blender together, you just push it and twist. And it's as simple as that. Typically, you would be able to do this inside of the pot that we've actually cooked the food in. For instance, if you're making a potato leek soup, you would have the pot of potato leek soup. It was already cooking, simmering perhaps for an hour or so, and you want to blend it a little finer. So you lift up your immersion blender and you put it all the way to the bottom of the pot. Now I'm using a see-through Cambro here just so we can see the action of the blade when it is in contact with the liquid. Okay, so once again, you put it all the way touching the bottom. And there are actually feet on the bottom of this. You want to make sure it rests evenly and level. There are some switches up here which will ignite this immersion blender. There's a safety switch and then there's a trigger. You need to depress both of them at the same time for the blade to operate. So I press the safety, which is on top, and then the trigger. And you can see we've started to spin the blade at the end of the immersion blender. Now if you look closely, there's different speeds. So we're down here at a very low speed, and now we can increase the speed all the way up to high. And then there's an off switch right there, okay? So you can have total control of how much you're going to blend, how long you're going to blend, and like any equipment we use in the kitchen, I want to emphasize some safety issues. We mentioned one already about never putting the motor in contact with water, but the other one is never lift up the blender while it's going. Because if we're dealing with hot liquid, it's going to splatter all around the room and make the other cooks in the room really angry at you. So you want to make sure that the blender is seated when it's turned on, always on the bottom of the pan.